Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Doing Justice Brings Joy. I'm your host, Stella Adams, and today we're going to be talking about Black economic power. And
Yep, you're still on and everything. I was seeing what was going on, and I heard you talking about Black economic power and what you were going to be talking about, and then you went silent. So I got to see what's going on there.
yeah, I can't see. Am I on the screen? Can people see me?
Yes, they can see you. They definitely heard you and saw you. Yep.
Okay, great. Um, so I'm going to be talking about Black economic power this week. And I'm going to be talking about this economic state of Black America. I'm going to talk about the upcoming 40-day Lenten economic fast that's being called for by Pastor Jamal Bryant and the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce. And I'm going to be talking about the new Black Consumer Advisory Bulletin that is coming out from the NAACP. So we are power packed in terms of understanding. The purpose of this episode is that we understand our economic power and that we exercise it. A lot of people misunderstand the purpose of economic boycotts. They misunderstand and think and use it in a symbolic way. But in the most effective and memorable economic boycott was the Montgomery bus boycott. And that boycott went on for a year. And we are still beneficiaries of that effort. And what they did was they shut down the economy and did not and were persistent in that, and until they got the changes that they wanted. People, we need to use this economic fast as an opportunity to divest from companies that do not appreciate our humanity, who do not recognize our humanity and only see us as economic tools that they can exploit. They take our dollars and we get nothing in return. After the George Floyd murder that was witnessed by millions of people live via media, social media, the numerous companies across America made pledges to support equity and inclusion programs, adopt policies that would invest in Black futures, invest in Black communities, invest in educational outcomes, and to respect and include us in the dialogue, not just as a transaction, but as a participant in this economic recovery, in this economic time. But as the second they got the opportunity, they reneged on those pledges, which on the surface, one, For one thing, the beneficiaries of these so-called George Floyd DEI initiatives, only 4% of the participants in that were beneficiaries were the Black community. Only 4%. Everybody else benefited off of it, but not us. But now all the blame is being placed on our community when we got no benefit. And so where we are now is that we are and y'all, I still don't know how to turn this phone off. Where we are now is we are in a position where we need to recognize where we are economically, understand our our economic power, and we need to exercise it for the benefit of our community, for us, by us, and no decisions made about but letting the rest of America know that we now understand our economic worth. We're going to protect Black wealth. You have a Supreme Court case that said that we can't have a Black wealth fund that only a venture fund that only supports Black people, because that's discriminatory. When 98% of all venture capital cash, 98% of all venture capital cash goes to white males. Hear what I said, goes to white males. White females are in that 2%, and about 0.06% goes, venture capital dollars go to Black people. Come on now. Help me understand the math. Make the math work. We can't take our resources and build our own venture capital, but it's okay for all the 98% of the venture capital to go to white males, and it's DEI for less than 1% of that capital to go to people of color. But we're going to do the numbers today. We're going to do the numbers today. And what I hope, because I cannot see, but what I hope is that you are seeing on the screen the map of the economic state of America. And this is done by Axios, and you'll see the economic state of Black America link in the comment section. As the nation marks this month, Black History Month, Axios did this analysis, and it shows the Black economic gap as of the third quarter of last year. Now, North Carolina, we had a gap of 2.4%, which is in the lower range of experiences. But if you look at places like Kentucky, okay, where Black unemployment is at 10.9%, and overall unemployment is 4.8%, there's something wrong with that. They're looking at the gap, but I'm also interested in what percentage of overall unemployment is the Black community. You look at Ohio, a 9.3% unemployment rate. Let's look at Missouri, 7.4% Black unemployment rate. Look at Texas, 6.5% Black unemployment rate. But again, the gap between that and the overall rate is 2.4%, which is a moderate rate. California has 2.2 gap, but the gap is nonetheless there. Places that don't have much of a gap are not surprisingly, Maryland, Delaware, and I dare say the District of Columbia, although it's not like actually popping up on the map. Mississippi has a gap that's less than 1%. And it looks like they have overall high employment in that state, where it's 3.5% unemployment for Black Mississippians versus 2.7%. And why does this matter? Because some of the most important indicators that tell the story of Black communities' financial progress and challenges. And when you have purges from data sets that touch on issues of race, we're not going to be able to map this progress. So one of the damaging things that the Trump administration has done in its executive order related to DEI is it has really changed how we see and understand data. The data helps us, data drives the movement, as my colleagues at the National Community Reinvestment say. Data drives the movement. Without data, without a baseline of understanding your power, you can't make progress, because only what is observed counts. Only what is observed counts. And so if you can't see it, you can't measure it. And what is measured is what gets improved. Now, overall, we have seen progress as a Black community from the 1980s until the present. We are seeing the unemployment gap gets smaller and smaller as a general course. And this is good news, but in places like Kentucky, systemic racial barriers continue to hold people back. And one of the problems is that this administration wants to put those barriers in place across the nation. The wealth gap has only grown, despite the fact that we have made progress in building Black wealth. Despite that fact, and as you can see, it's not much compared to what white folks have done. No people of color are generating wealth in a manner that's sustainable. But if we invest in ourselves, if we are successful in forcing corporate America to invest in Black America and invest in our suppliers, invest in our small businesses, invest in the education, opportunities of our children, invest in our communities. If we invest in ourselves and take our economic dollars and reuse them to buy black and to build Black America, we can see we can build a future. But as long as all people of color are in the billions while white wealth is in the trillions, we are not winning this game. But what we can't continue to allow is what little wealth we have be transferred to white corporate America. That is not going to happen. Non-Hispanic whites account for 62% of American population, but control 84% of the nation's wealth. Black Americans represent 12% of the population, but we only own 3.4% of the country's wealth. And that's down. That's down from the 4.7% rate that we had in 2017. So what we have to do is follow the money. Black Americans, we have ownership of 313 billion in stock and mutual funds. And that's up a mere 3.4% in 7 years. But it is trending up. But we need to be strategic in our usage of that $313 billion. We need to invest in mutual funds and stocks of companies that support the Black community, that stand on their promises related to diversity, inclusion, equity, and inclusion. If you're investing in a stock that's not investing in you, even we have to use our power and our wealth to build our long-term mobility for our community. White Americans control 41 trillion with a T in stock market value, and their stock value has grown 91% over the last 7 years, while we've only grown 3.4 in 7 years. And then these companies are talking about not supporting our community, not supporting the growth and the business ownership in our communities. But we can take that 313 billion in stocks, and we have a lot of room to grow to get the kind of wealth that the 91% to grow. We have growth, and when we know the market is going to fluctuate, we need to invest in those companies that invest in us. We need to shop at those companies that invest in us, that support our community. Why are we supporting them with our financial dollars, and then we are starving? We are underrepresented. We are neglected, and we don't lack talent. If it were a true meritocracy system, we would be fine. But it is not. It is a support of white mediocrity system that gives white males advantages over all other protected groups. And who's been harmed the most by the elimination of DEI policies? White women, veterans, disabled people, Hispanic Americans, and other people of color, and yes, Black Americans. But the order that I gave you is the order that the harm occurred. Many of the people and groups I talked about, they voted for Trump. They didn't want DEI policies, and then they found out, whoa, you mean I'm a DEI hire? Well, welcome to the party, people. So the share of U.S. businesses with Black owners has increased to a mere 3.3% of all businesses nationwide. Remember, we are more than 12% of the population. The share has increased steadily, but it is still relatively small compared to white or Hispanic owners. Black business ownership grew 57%, but we're self-funding. We're not getting bank loans. During the PPP, the program, the Paycheck Protection Program that was put in place by to protect small businesses, of the 66 banks that I tested during that time, zero made a PPP loan to a Black woman-owned business. Women-owned businesses received far less benefit from the PPP program than male-owned businesses. In fact, a Black male business owner during the PPP was 4 times as likely as a white woman-owned business to receive a PPP loan. And those loans were forgivable if you met certain criteria. But the Black community did not benefit from those loans. And here you can see this massive cut to federal workforce is going to have a different impact on the Black community. Now, while 53% of the non-Hispanic white workforce is in the federal government, 19% is in the Black federal workforce, which is an overrepresentation. And so the impact is going to be much more devastating on the Black middle class that are generally the beneficiaries of these federal government positions, compared to 11% in the private sector. And if you think about that, with the private sector, these sectors that we are targeting, we need to understand that if they're already saying they're not going to meet their commitments, then with the loss of the federal positions, the loss of and the retrenchment of the private sector's commitment to increasing access to opportunity, we're not even increase access to opportunity through recruitment and outreach, because that's all they promised to do, then we are at a loss. The Hispanic community is going to be harder hit by the private sector losses, along with the enforcement of the enforcement tactics of the immigration on immigration, and it's going to impact the private sector in a very aggressive way. Um, we have to understand what the shrinking um, impact of this will have. Banking access by rate, while we've seen some improvement in the reduction in banking, but we need to follow and put some money if in the 23 um, black predominantly black banks and CDFIs that remain in the country. They can take your bank, they can hold your savings account and make loans across the country. Here again, we have see a slight decline in degrees granted by race to African Americans. We see a significant increase to Hispanics. But when we look at the results of affirmative action cases, the dismantling of DEI commitments by universities, the retrenchment in higher education to supporting HBCUs and other minority serving institutions. Education is power, and we can't let this retrenchment in their commitments to DEI, much of which was investment in HBCUs, investment in education for African American youth. We can't allow that to go unpunished. We can't allow that to go unpunished. And home ownership rate, this is us, people, this right here. It has never, we haven't closed that gap at all. From 1995 to the present, we have seen no gain in our actual home ownership rate. And we had my work had really started the work of the CRA community reinvestment activists in getting banks to invest in Black communities and in Black home ownership. That started with Homeowner Disclosure Act data becoming publicly available. Again, data drives the movement, and that effort increased Black home ownership. And then you see in 2005, this is where we started seeing the peak in predatory lending. And you see it has been a drastic decline ever since, because a lot of these loans were predatory in nature and stripped Black wealth, did not create Black wealth as it should be. Our income has steadily increased as a community, but it has not closed the gap between our races, the races. This is the stat that has me in a tizzy. The Black maternal mortality rate has gone up and is twice that of other communities. Our maternity rate, maternal mortality rate, is only exacerbated by all the anti-abortion legislation that is being proposed, where doctors are not allowed to treat women who are having rough births because it might be considered abortion to treat and save that mother's life. This is tragic, and we have to do something about it. And this is where the health costs that Black families have to endure because of the inequities in the healthcare system um, also impacts our wealth. It impacts our credit scores. It impacts our community. And we have to look at these pharmaceutical companies and Walmart, Walgreens, and companies that are not supporting our community. Look at the share of medical debt we have compared to other communities. I am really at a crossroads here. I'm really at a crossroads here. And I don't know about you, but these facts, because I'm going to always present you the stats and the facts so that you understand why the advocacy, so that you understand why the outrage, so you understand the background simmering in the Black community around this retrenchment. Even McDonald's, that used to have a Black 365 program, has retreated from its diversity and inclusion. Yes, don't get that Big Mac. And you can start that today. You don't have to wait till you don't have to wait until we get to March 5th. So let me talk to you a little bit about the March 5th proposed Target boycott, a 40-day economic fast. And I want to be clear that we are targeting Target, but we are because they had the boldest things that they professed they were going to do. But there are other groups that also are being targeted. And if you go to targetfast.org, you will see the list of all the entities that we are asking you not to do business with during the month of March, the 40 days from March 5th through this April 17th. All of you all, well, many of you all know Pastor Jamal Bryant, who is the pastor of New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. More than 50,000 people have signed a petition against Target, and is closer now to 100,000. Pastor Bryant advocated for his congregation initially to participate in a 40-day fast of Target shopping, but it has gained traction nationwide and has been adopted and by Black congregations across the nation and faith-based organizations across the nation to participate in this 40-day Lenten fast, economic fast. In addition to this movement by the Black community around Target, the LGBTQ community has also been criticizing Target for changes that they've made to their commitments to that community in rural communities across the country. Pastor Bryant, though, wanted us to focus on this economic fast during the Lenten season because he wanted us to remind us that historically the Black church has always been the centerpiece of the civil rights movement. And he reminds us and reminds Target specifically that the Black community contributes $29 million a day to Target's bottom line. Let me re-emphasize the number. $29 million a day Black folks spend at Target. $29 million a day. And yet, they have no respect for our humanity. They have no respect for our opportunity. They don't want to hire us. They took away their hiring policies. They don't want to hire us. They don't want to display our products except in the corner, in the back, in the booth, in the dark. Oh, we in a front display during Black History Month, but, they're retrenching on recognizing Black History Month. He is calling for us to stop shopping at Target for 40 days, starting on Ash Wednesday, March 5th. He is asking us to buy black, using the multitude now of lists of Black companies and Black producers and Black distributors across the country. You don't have to use Amazon. There are Black platforms where you can go directly from the warehouse to your house from Black companies. The U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce has a web search where you can search for what you want, find it locally, and they will provide you with that list. If you join the economic fast at targetfast.org, sign the pledge, you'll get access to the list. There are over 30,000 Black-owned businesses available to you to cover most of what you need. Now, why did he start with Lenten season, but announced it so early? One, he wanted to give Black businesses that do business with Target the opportunity, if they did not already have it, to set up their own websites so it could go direct market from them to you, so that you don't have to lose out on your favorite Black products that are at the Target store. You can buy direct from the company. This fast is and more retailers are at risk. You can find a list of these companies that have retrenched on their commitments. I tell you so that my friends and family and colleagues know that I will be doing a 40-day economic fast against Facebook. I will not post on Facebook. I will not read a post on Facebook. I will be on a fast for 40 days on Facebook. and I just need to learn. Um, I'm going to ask some of my listeners if you can tell me how I can do that without like how I can put a stop on it and then start it back up without having to like lose everything. But even if I lose everything and have to start from scratch, I am going to be on a 40-day fast from Facebook. So, share that information with me. I am going to really understand the ecosystem of my choices. There will be no purchases on Amazon during the 40 days. So, and it's probably good for me not to be online doing all this stuff because I just spend money that I needlessly spend money that I won't be doing during that period of time. So there are ways that we can focus. Ryan, Michael Ryan, who's a financial expert um, and founder of MichaelRyanMoney.com, he said that Target's brand positioning created higher expectations around social responsibility. We thought Target was better than Walmart. That's me. And Michael Ryan said when they retreated from DEI commitments, their core urban professional demographic, that's us black people, saw it as a betrayal of stated values. A betrayal. That's why we're doing this. Kevin Thompson, who is the founder and CEO of 9i Capital Group, told Newsweek that Target was one of many companies that pledged to increase diversity following the televised death of a black citizen at the hands of a police officer. The rollback of these initiatives have left many people feeling disillusioned, viewing it as another example of corporate profit being prioritized over people. For the black community, this serves as a reminder that economic power, let me say this one more time, that economic power, rather than votes, often drives meaningful change. That's not to say that the power of our votes don't matter, because they do. Don't get that twisted. But our economic power is what drives, because when you hit them in the pocketbook, that's when it hurts them. I will say that we're already seeing some impact on the company's stock because it's already trading below the $160 value it had before the controversy. So what we want to do is drive down the value of the company over that 40 days. If you go to targetfast.org, they got a ticker tape, and they are going to be able, based on the pledged participants, to document in real time how much money we're costing them and what impact it's having on their stock value. So I just want to point that out. I also want to highlight that the NAACP has established the Black Consumer Advisory. and it is encouraging folks to spend your money where you are respected, supported, and they want you to also prioritize people over profit, investing in our communities. But it's our duty to invest in ourselves first and support Black-owned businesses. They're asking us at the NAACP to spend intentionally, support businesses and organizations that maintain and expand their commitments to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and prioritize investment in Black communities. The NAACP wants us to pledge that we will be demanding accountability and that we're going to call out corporations that have abandoned diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and we're going to demand transparency in their policies. The NAACP is requesting that we support Black-owned businesses, that we prioritize Black-owned businesses and service providers in our spending decisions. You don't know McDonald's? Go to a Black-owned restaurant or food truck in your community. The NAACP is calling for us to be advocates for change, to push for policy strengthening supplier diversity, workplace equity, and economic inclusion for Black professionals and entrepreneurs. And I'm going to say for Black working class people should also be included in that push for policies. And we as a Black community, we have to stay informed. We have to take the opportunity to share broadcasts like this with others in our community. We need to educate ourselves and others about corporate rollbacks and their impact on the Black community and what we can do to fight back against this. There are people who want to send us back to Jim Crow slavery day, Jim Crow days. They want to make us have to be the shills of corporations. They want us to be peasants in this society. They want to take away the middle class's opportunity for investment. They want us to become Bob Cratchit working for Scrooge. That's not going to happen. Not on my watch. Not on my watch. I see that we have a comment from a listener, and I'm grateful for your comments. I want to say that it's important. It's important that you share this information about the 40-day economic fast. Some people say, Stella, I don't understand why this economic fast, what does that have to do with the Lenten season? how is that related to the purpose of Lent? And I share with you that Lent is a period of sacrifice. Millions of people in the Christian world observe Lent. Pastor Jamal Bryant first is calling for 40 days of prayer, fasting, and self denial. And this 40-day economic fast falls into that concept of self denial. And it's also a time, as we're supporting Black businesses, this is part of the concept of giving. So the 40 days of Lent are meant for prayer, fasting, self denial, and giving. And so we don't focus much. We focus on prayer, we focus on fasting, and typically we give up chocolate as our self denial during the Lenten season. But this year, he's asking us to give and support the Black community through our support of Black businesses. And he's asking us to focus our self-denial on our reliance and dependence and convenience of giving our $29 million a day spending habit to a company that does not respect us. And spending that $10 a meal at McDonald's, rather than do that, we spend that money at a co-op. We buy our produce from Black farmers. We support Black producers. Why go through the middleman when you can buy direct from Black suppliers? This is what he's calling us to do. It fits in the theme of what the purpose of Lent is. He is also calling for us to fast and pray for our community and for our nation and for the world. So I call on you to understand this. I call on you to go participate. Enjoy Mardi Gras on Fat Tuesday, and then go to church with intentionality on Ash Wednesday, fasting and praying for our community, our nation, and the people of the world who are suffering because of the random decisions of our current president. His decision, I'm just going to say this, because I want you to understand that we have to make choices. His decision to shut down USAID is inflicting 40 babies in Africa a day with AIDS because the vaccine that would be given to their mother before their birth that prevents them from obtaining the virus has been stopped by this administration. There is food sitting on boats that can't be unloaded, that is rotting, that we feed starving children around the world because of his actions. So we have to pray for our nation, pray for the world, and pray for our community. We are called on to step up in this moment. And this is a small sacrifice that you're being asked to make. This is a small sacrifice. 40 days of economic fasting. And you could take that money you would spend at Target on random things and put it in a black bank. Buy a stock in a black business. Save that money for a rainy day. Whatever random $10 you're going to spend on a McDonald's for lunch, make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or a chicken salad sandwich on a croissant, and take that $10 and put it in a jar. And at the end of the 40 days, if you save $10 a day for 40 days, that's $400. And that can be your rainy day fund. So let's take that, let's add, this is Stella saying, put $10 a day that you would spend on lunch. Pack a lunch for 10 days. Let that be part of your self-sacrifice. And don't go to McDonald's. Save that money. And have a nest egg of $400 at the end of the 40 days of Lent. Black economic power. Black economic power is what we need today. We need you to exercise Black economic power to drive for meaningful change. Thank you for listening and hopefully learning and hopefully committing to this week's episode of Doing Justice Brings Joy to the Righteous and Terror to the Evil Ones. So let's do our bit to bring joy to the righteous and follow the instructions of Pastor Jamal Bryant and engage in the Lenten economic fast. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week when we'll be discussing fair housing, victories, and the struggles that the community is facing under this current administration. Thank you again.